right, guys, welcome back here, the Unheard Digital Summit. Today's expert interviewee is Paul Bright, Technical Director of the Coaching Manual and Top Tekkers, two great soccer apps currently being used by teams, players, coaches across the country to provide some really great value, insight, data, and coaching during this difficult time here for the soccer community. Paul, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you, Austin. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, and it's great to have you. I've gotten very close to both Top Tekkers and the Coaching Manual over the last several weeks. Love the program that you guys have. Love what you're doing for the kids. Love what you're doing for the coaches. You know, bringing some real credibility to the U.S. soccer game, especially from a coaching perspective that is long lacked, for lack of better words. Bringing some really good UEFA quality standards to the coaching ranks. Super excited to dive into that. But rather than me talking about you, what you do as a technical director, you know, what you do here in the SoCal market, I want to let you speak. All right. So first and foremost, who is Paul Bright? Where have you come from? Love the accent, by the way. What's brought you here to SoCal?
So obviously, thanks for having me on, Austin. As you said, my name's Paul Bright. I'm the technical director for both the Coaching Manual and Top Tekkers, and I am now based in Orange County, Southern California. I've been here coming up to 4 years now, and as you can tell, I'm not a native of California. I'm originally from Manchester in England, which is a bit of a football capital or a soccer capital, if you like, of not just of England but of Europe, with some fantastic professional clubs and also youth teams and grassroots programs underpinning. In Manchester, it's one of those places very similar to Southern California, if you like, where, you know, soccer is a staple of everyday life, and people have just got a massive passion for the game. You know, Manchester and parts of Southern California are very similar in that regard. You got there, what makes you an expert? I don't consider myself to be an expert in anything. And I'm genuine there. What I would say is I've had some very, very fortunate experiences. And I've made a bit of my own luck along the way. You know, like a lot of people, I've worked hard and I'm very dedicated to the game and to my craft. Very fortunate to have worked in the professional game for coming up to 20 years now as a coach. I was at Manchester United's famous academy for 8 years, looking across the foundation phase with the younger players. Some fantastic young players who are now playing for the first team, who you'd know the names of, but I'm not going to drop those names. And again, as you mentioned, you know, I've been through my UEFA badges. I've got my UEFA A license. I'm a qualified teacher as well. I've been a qualified teacher for over 10 years, which is an important role as well. I see coaching and teaching as very, very similar, especially when we're dealing with youth players. And since I've been in the US, I've also undertaken my USSFA license as well. It's not enough for me as an individual to just think I can come over to a different country and say, look at me, look at my experiences. That's not enough. I need to know the culture, the landscape, and I need to fully submerge myself into my new home, really, and understand, you know, the soccer landscape and how I can hopefully contribute and help shape it, and just, you know, add my opinion and add my discussions to any sorts of dialogues and best practice, really. So, you know, very, very fortunate. I've worked at other professional clubs in England as well, and had some fantastic experiences in the US, working with LA Galaxy OC in their affiliate program as director of coaching. I'm an instructor for the US Soccer Federation, and I currently work with AYSO United as a technical director there as well. So, just trying to influence the game and support the game to the best of my own ability.
Yeah, and I love that, man. Now, honestly, it's super admirable, starting from, you know, where you came from and now being a part of, as much as you are a part of, impacting the game at every level. Just from my personal experience working with you over the last, you know, number of weeks, you go about, you know, how you visualize the game and how you apply your time, effort, and energy the right way. You provide a lot of great value with both Top Tekkers and the Coaching Manual. We're going to dive into both of those. But a couple things that you mentioned that are super important to this overall discussion and that you play a huge role in is both the player and the coach development side of it. So let's segue a little bit into the second portion and talk about the state guidelines and how they're impacting both of those. And I'll let you talk as far as, if you want to go from the player side or the coach side first, because both of them are important in this conversation.
Yeah, it's absolutely unique times. None of us in our lifetime have experienced anything like this. And, even in California, I mentioned Southern California. In my 4 years in the US coming up, I've done 26 states. I've visited 26 states. So I've done just over half of the country, which is not too bad. So I've got a good, I'm not an expert, but, Southern California is home and it is an absolute hotbed of soccer. Can see that a mile off just moving here straight away. The number of players, number of families, the number of coaches, administrators, all involved in the game. And a lot of the time, they're involved in the game for the right reasons of player development and wanting players and young people in particular to fulfill potential. The state guidelines, to be absolutely blunt, they're very unclear, and I think this is where the confusion is coming from. The most frustrating part in this whole pandemic for me has been getting back onto the fields, getting players back out, and every club I've seen has been, they've done the due diligence in providing social distancing activities, coaches are wearing masks, no parents on the sidelines, the majority of clubs I've seen have done a fantastic job, and then to be pulled back off the fields was, a bit of a kick in the chest for a lot of us, coaches, players, and families now. So I think I know your campaign, Austin, and you're keen to push that. And if I speak on behalf of the player first, I think as young people they need to be out on not just on the soccer field. They need to be out. We've got to remember this isn't just youth soccer that is being affected. This is youth sports, and any sort of physical activity team, programs have not been cleared at this current point to get outside, and you just have to wonder what are going to be the long-term ramifications of that. I think number one, we've got to look at safety. I'm not saying let's just throw caution to the wind. No, we should be out. No matter what. It's you can see why certain decisions are being made, and safety and health and welfare of young people is number one above anything. It has to be. However, the fact that youth sports in particular have not even been addressed properly at a state level is quite frustrating, really. And I'm hoping campaigns like your own, get to that, because the players need to be out there, and the players need to be, just socialising with each other. For when we went back on the field, our number one priority was fun. Forget our periodisation models. Forget our key concepts as a club and as teams and as individual players with their key performance, indicators and individual development plans, if you want to throw all that in. The number one priority was safety and fun, because these kids have been locked up, and not been at school for a number of months and have not had that social interaction. So on a player standpoint, for me, it's quite frustrating. But there are some positives which I'll come to later on when we talk about the two platforms. There's silver linings in every cloud, but by and large we want our players back out when it's safe and appropriate to do so, but we need guidance on what that looks like, I think. On top of that, coaches. So as a coach, it's always frustrating when you can't work with your players. For me, the number one reason I do the job I do is because I like working with players. I like to be around people. I like to talk about football and soccer. And I like to be around players and challenge and instigate and have the banter, if you like, or what we say back home, have a bit of a laugh and a bit of a joke, because that's what team sports is about. It's fun, work hard, get the results, have a bit of a laugh and get to know each other. So really important. And any time I'm not in that environment, I do miss it massively. As coaches, though, it's provided us, if you want a silver lining here, it's provided us with an absolute unique opportunity to reflect. And we talk about reflection on all of the US Soccer Federation courses, on every sort of education program at the minute, whether it's sport or business or whatever, we'll always now touch base on reflection. But my comment is, how much do we really get to truly reflect as soccer coaches when we're on. So the next training practice, the next session, the next game, the next tournament, the next training practice. However, we've done 4 months of reflection. At some point, we need to get out and implement it and get back into the coaching cycle, the plan, the do, the review, or reflect. We need to get back onto the wheel and the coaching cycle. Players need to be back onto the learning cycle. So without being able to go back out and implement what we're learning, it all becomes theory, it all becomes written down. So the positives are there's opportunities to expand our knowledge. The negatives are, as coaches, we're not jumping back into that coaching cycle and seeing what works, what doesn't work. And again, how many coaches could we lose out of this? This is another issue, if you like, because Southern California, there may be people who just volunteer coach, but I know there's many paid coaches, which for me doesn't matter. It's if you're stepping foot on a field, you have a responsibility and you should be professional. Professional is not being paid. Professional is your attitude to what you're doing in any industry. But how many people again are going to lose their livelihoods as a result, which is, it's not good, because you've got people who've dedicated a number of years to this craft of coaching soccer or any other sport for that matter, and now they've got to find a job in another industry because clubs are collapsing everywhere, and the economic impact of what's going on as well, and US sometimes unfairly, I think, gets criticised for this sort of business model in soccer, but everything you do is pay to play anyway. If you're doing a martial arts program, it's pay to play. If you're doing it, it's pay to play. It's up to the individual parent or family, if you like, to judge what that value is and what the return for their young person is. And if they're happy to do that, then fantastic. So the danger is we lose very qualified people, or very, people coaches who dedicated a number of years to this craft. And when we are ready to come back to play, is there going to be enough coaches to facilitate programs? So there's more questions than answers. I've not got any answers, but all I can do is view it of what I'm seeing. And I think the bottom line is, as players and as coaches, there's an opportunity, and we'll touch on the technical development within Top Tekkers. There's opportunities to still improve and be better, but ultimately we need to be back out on the field sooner rather than later, when it's safe to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. The confusion that you're getting from the state, I'm hearing that quite a bit, not only from people on the various channels that we are or have opened opening this discussion, but also in other expert interviewees that we've touched on. Hearing the unclarity across multiple different sports. What would it take in your eyes? I know, one of our mutual friends, Tim Woodcock, created an incredible drone video talking about, what he's doing as a club down there with Liverpool. Talked about what you're seeing, what type of themes you're seeing at the player, coach, and at the club level, how they're adapting to this present situation.
Yeah, we have to adapt to survive, don't we? It's like I said, when the teams went back out and when the clubs went back out, I coach my teams out of the Great Park in Irvine in Southern California, and for me, I'm looking around the fields and to be fair, everybody is following the guidelines that were handed down to us, from the facilities and from Cal South in terms of social distancing, limited player numbers on the field, no spectators, sanitisation, individual technical work with a ball, no competitive play. Everywhere I looked, it was happening. But players were happy to be back on the field because this is a team sport, this is a social sport. So I cannot, people adapted and they developed programs that are going to meet these guidelines, and it may be a bit of a short-term fix because we want to teach the game and we can't teach the game if they're not playing against each other. But like I said, there's a unique opportunity, and this is where Top Tekkers came in. For me, this generation of players, for the ones who've gone away and got the ball and fallen in love with the ball and developed their own, touch and their own skill set on the ball, just a ball in themselves, we have an opportunity to have the most technically gifted generation for a number of years, because for me, players have not been practicing like they were 10, 15, 20 years ago individually. They just don't. I can't speak for the culture within the US because I've not been here long enough. But if I was to guess, and I speak to people from across the globe, I'm guessing that culture hasn't been there as well. It was probably more 10, 15 years ago. Basketball is probably the best sport I can allude to. Just pick up and in the yard or down at the local park and shoot some hoops. And you look in Europe, South America, other countries, and parts of the US as well. And are those players just going out and getting a ball on their own and practicing? And that's really where to link nicely into it, I suppose, is where Top Tekkers fitted in, and really our mission around that player, that digital player development tool. But to answer your question, yeah, clubs have adapted. The issue now with clubs is, can they sustain it, or can we support in terms of, can we all work together as a soccer community to help them sustain it? Because I saw a lot of individual coaches set off like a house on fire. They're doing Zooms every night, they're creating this technical program, they're doing this. And after 10, 12 weeks, they'd run out of absolute steam, and the players' heads were like, ready to explode, because, we've got to judge the balance right as well. But to be fair, people within the game did adapt, and there was this unique opportunity for individual technical support and for coach education as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting talking about the player development in greater detail and seeing the trends, talking about the last 15, 20 years, at a micro level here, local to San Diego, where I'm at, Presidio Soccer League is as closely tied as I am there. And then seeing it as a, sort of a grand scheme or 30,000 foot up approach at U.S. soccer as a whole. Think about what have we done lately, having that mentality, what have you done for me, last type of approach. And we haven't been relevant in the national game, in the global game, in quite some time. We haven't been a threat, let's just say, relevant here in the United States maybe, but outside the United States, we aren't a threat in anywhere. And I've traveled Africa, I've traveled Europe, and, it's a sentiment that's widely shared, not only from U.S. soccer culture standpoint, but soccer coaches, soccer players. We're finally seeing the Christian Pulisic's of the world, finally making it, big in the European game. There's been several others before him. But let's talk a little bit about that, and let's see if we can, get to the root of the issue on that. Top Tekkers provides a very unique sort of grassroots digital training approach, and it's done for you directly at your home. Let's talk about why that's a need in the first place. What have you seen in the U.S. game that has led you and your team to develop something that speaks directly to that pain point?
Well, it wasn't directly from the US game. It was the initial step. We was in conversations developing Top Tekkers over 3 years ago. So, people probably think, wow, the coaching manual and Top Tekkers have pulled this out of the bag during COVID and managed to develop this app, which has got over 150 different technical challenges on, where, kids can log the score in the park, in the backyard, coaches can set individual development plans. We didn't throw that together overnight. That's been a 3-year plus challenge. It's always been about the players, because we recognise it, and there's all different debates within coaching now. You've got perception action coupling. There should be stimulus and context to everything. But the bottom line is, and nobody disagrees, is in order to play the game, you've got to have a level of technical ability. You've got to have a level of technical competency, whether that's fundamental movements, being able to meet the physical demands of the game and the technical demands of the game, because you can't make a decision and execute a decision if you can't control a bag of cement. We've got to be able to deal with the ball. So it was born out of, we were seeing this in professional academies in the UK, where there's a program called the Elite Player Performance Pathway in the UK, or Elite Player Performance Program, should I say, which was mandated by the Premier League. So every club, professional academy in England had to sign up to the EPPP, they call it. And as part of that EPPP program, every player within these academies had to be set an individual development plan. And what was happening is they was finding that players 9 times out of 10 needed technical work. And this comes back to the cultural thing we were talking about, where society has changed. Kids don't play out like we probably did as as youngsters, and better, worse, we can get nostalgic about it, but the world's a different place, and young people don't have that opportunity, and as a result, everything they learn is within a controlled environment. Everything they learn is within team training programs. Now, for any player or any athlete for that matter, or any musician or anyone who wants to become elite at what they're doing, they're going to have to do more. There's no secret sauce to anything. It's called practice. It's called get out there and practice. Now, the young people are very different to how we were as young people. I touched on that. They're in a digital age. My youngest daughter, who's 8 now, at 2 and 3 years old, she could use the iPad, and that's not a shock to anyone, because that's a digital era that they're growing up in. So now we had to come up with a way to motivate young people to get outside and practice. And it sounds a bit of an oxymoron of a statement to say, let's use a digital platform to get players outside to practice, but that's exactly what we researched, and that's exactly what we looked at with Top Tekkers. So we developed a digital platform where players can win trophies, they can do challenges, they can submit scores, and it's that we looked at things like Angry Birds and think, how do they get gamers and players keep gamification of soccer, and that's the model we followed really. But it's very much based on what young people were doing when we were children, trying to hit the sign on the wall, or trying to get it in the trash can from 20 yards with your friends, and you'd spend hours trying to do it, and we're not going home until everyone's done it, and also that sort of thing. So it's about gamification of it. But on the flip side, as coaches as well, if we want to truly coach the game, and this is this debate about we want to teach the game, we want to develop, US Soccer will say we want to develop, autonomous thinkers of the game. That's in their literature. Then you've got to allow players to make effective decisions in training and in games. Now, they can't make decisions if they're always looking down at their feet because they can't control the ball. So everything becomes interlinked. Everything becomes intertwined about, you've got to work on the technique. For me, if I've got a group of young players, depending on their age, once they get to 11v11, I'm not doing any technical work outside of COVID. I'm teaching the game. I expect them to have a level of technical competency. It's up to them to go away, and if they can't use their left foot to hit a 20-yard diagonal pass, it's up to them to go away and practice it outside of team training. With the younger players, there's an element of, you've not had as much experience, so I'm going to do some of it. But even still, outside of our team training, I expect you to go away and work on not just your areas for improvement, but your strengths. If you want to be a top player or a top anything, you've got to work on what's your 9 out of 10. What are your 10 out of 10 in, as well as your areas for development. So, very, very, we put a lot of research into Top Tekkers. It's not me as a 37-year-old doing these skills and step overs, because our research again showed that young people will not imitate outside of 2 years either side of their age band. This is the research, what we did. So if you see Cristiano Ronaldo do a skill, a young player may imitate it, but there's already an inbuilt excuse because that's an adult. Not that's Cristiano Ronaldo, that's an adult. Whereas if I'm a 10-year-old player and I see a 12-year-old, there's my motivation. That's where I've got to get to. I've got to be able to do what that 12-year-old can do. If I see an 8-year-old player, well, I'm older than him. I should be able to do that. We get too young, see inverted youth theory. We get too young, then it's like, well, that's a baby doing it. Or I get too old, well, they're a lot older than me. I can't be expected to do that. So everything we filmed with was with children of the relevant age group. So however old you are, player age 5 to 14, 15, you log in and it will automatically set based on your age, and you see a player of a similar age group performing these skills. And again, we did trial it in the UK, in Manchester, with some grassroots clubs and a professional academy. And we also trialed it here, believe it or not, in the US, in San Diego, with one of the larger clubs, with San Diego Surf. We tried it with, we actually did a lot of pilot research with it, and the stats coming back and the data coming back was fantastic, because the app also allows us to produce those analytics and that data tracking, not just for individual coaches, not just for parents, but for the club as a whole. So we can provide reports back to the club to say, this is what your players are working on. This is what they're practicing. This is how many times a week they're logging in. Before, this is how many times a week now they're practicing. Before Top Tekkers, and now they've got the app. So we evidenced all that, which was great on a club standpoint as well. But the bottom line is players were going out practicing and trying to beat the scores. So, you know, it's a really important part to the game. We know there are other products out there, but I think, you know, with the reputation of the coaching manual, the coaching manual has been around for over 9 years now, which makes us a bit of a grandfather in terms of technology. You know, in the tech business, that's a very long time. But, you know, with the coaching manual, we work with professional academies all over the globe: Southampton, Glasgow Rangers, Chicago Fire in the MLS. We work with major organisations: AYSO United, Surf, Rush. We work with all of these major organisations to provide, you know, a coach education platform to try and get to the players as well. So that actually helps us transfer over and give us that credibility already with the players. And with Top Tekkers, there's already, you know, Premier League clubs using it. You've got Sheffield United in the EPL who are using it. You've got Burnley, who their academy, every player in the academy is using it. And then you've got a number of club programs across the US and across the globe at all different levels using Top Tekkers. And the feedback we've got has been fantastic, because it's not just about this pandemic, it's about how we're going to incorporate it afterwards as well. How are we going to continue to develop players technically, so when they come to me as a coach, I can teach them the game.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And it's so funny. It's all, you know, kind of going back to the same sort of central key point that most of my interviewees get to, which is data and facts, right? You know, what are we doing with the data and facts presented to us? And in your case, you've been able to go capture some very interesting data and facts that are, you know, using this gamification model that is actually driving a positive forward momentum for the grassroots game of U.S. soccer. When it comes to providing that credibility and establishing us for the next, let's say, decade to come, having something like Top Tekkers and having the ability to get inside the home and be able to, you know, in a sense, create the next generation of soccer stars, the next generation of, you know, people that you're emulating by emulating those who are directly closest to you, is a brilliant model. From the coaching side, the coaching manual, obviously 9 years in the game, it is your, you know, credibility vehicle in a sense. Even though, you know, your resume and repertoire is a mile long from the Top Tekkers side, but with 9 years and all of the data and facts that you've been able to collect at the global coaching landscape, you know, what are you doing to impact the coaching game here in the United States?
Yeah, great question. Appreciate the positive comments as well. First thing I will say with the coaching manual is we're all soccer people. You know, everyone in the company, former players. I think, well, very soon by the end of the year, we'll have 3 UEFA A licensed coaches on staff, which isn't bad, you know, ex-players. So everyone's got a vested interest in the game. We all love the game. We're all passionate about the game. That's the number one thing. The second thing is the coaching manual has never been there to tell anybody what to do. I think that's really important. This is a game of opinions, and the minute you take out opinions, this is a problem with social media, by the way, because everyone has to be right and nobody can respect somebody else's opinion. It's okay to actually disagree with someone in football, in soccer. I actually welcome it, because it means that there's different points of view on the game and we're watching the game through different sets of eyes. If we ever lose that, I'll walk away from this game. It's not to say that I like arguing with people. It's not that. It's the fact that we like to discuss things, because I may have a conversation with you, Austin, and you may see it totally different to me. No, I disagree with you there, Paul. They shouldn't have been playing that formation. They should have done this, this, and this. Now, I've got 2 choices in this conversation now. I either go, wow, Austin, I didn't even think of it like that, and now I've just learnt something, or I have to go, Austin, well, you know, respectfully, I disagree with you, and this is why. Because to just disagree with someone, then, well, very good. But we have to then say why. So what it's doing, it's actually making me look inside myself to go, what is my knowledge? What do I see? What's my experiences? And how can I now convey this to Austin to say, Austin, we don't disagree because this is what I would do. That's the beauty of the game. That is the absolute essence of team sports and soccer in particular, because it's such a dynamic and open game. So, for the coaching manual, we don't tell people what you should be doing. What we do is we provide best practice. We were the first, I dare say we were one of the first, if not the first organisation globally to have a link with an English Premier League academy and be able to show what these academy coaches are doing day to day. So being able, as a coach in the US, to pick up your iPad, to pick up your phone, to log into your laptop and to be able to get an insight into a professional academy in Europe. And we were very fortunate because it was Southampton who, when we had this relationship, ended up being voted the best academy in Europe. Theo Walcott, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Lallana, James Ward-Prowse, half the Liverpool squad, if you like, and there's more and more and more. So we're very, very fortunate. But what it did do is it provided coaches within the US as another benchmark of, I can take a little bit here and I can take a little bit there. And because I can see the video, it's not just X's and O's. You can find X's and O's anywhere on Google. Just type in a session title, we'll get a plan. It's not enough. That's just the what. You need to understand as a coach the how and the why. And what the coaching manual did do from the offset is provide the how and the why through this video content in broadcast quality, by the way, not just a GoPro. It was broadcast quality, edited, getting the key coaching points out. So what we are is essentially a continuous coach education platform in the US and globally. So, coaches now, they do the grassroots and they do the D license. As soon as they pass the D license, what are they told? You've got to wait 12 months before you can do the C. That actually makes sense, because if you want to be a D licensed coach, it isn't a piece of paper. It's how you live your life as a coach every day. However, how do I go from getting my certificate on my D license to being ready for the C license? How do I continue to satisfy my demand for knowledge? And this is where we come in as the coaching manual, this continuous coach education platform. And we've developed over the years as well. So that was the starting point. And we're very lucky to have partnerships with Southampton, Glasgow Rangers. We've got a partnership. I don't know if a lot of American viewers will know the organisation. It's called the LMA, the League Managers Association. To be a member of that association, you need to be a Premier League, Championship, League One or League Two manager. Simple as that. So we've got a partnership with the LMA, which allows us to access coaches like David Moyes, Mark Warburton, Rennie Mullenstein, former first team coach at Manchester United. Gary Rowett just released a session today with the current Millwall manager, Dean Smith, current Aston Villa manager. These guys are coaching Premier League, Championship players, and we're getting them on camera and they're coaching young people, and we can say this is what it looks like. There's not much difference. It's just the terminology might be slightly different, the intensity might be different, but you can still deliver the same things. The David Moyes session was an absolute eye-opener to me. When I saw it, it was like, I could do this with my U10s in terms of the opening warm-up, the 1v1 pressing. But the level of detail he gave just to those, I think they were U18 players, but you could do it with any age group. And he was pulling out the key coaching points. So fantastic to see for coaches, especially in the US. And to be fair, we've been very well received in the US. On top of that, we've developed into a club management platform as well. So each club globally now, they've got their own philosophy, they've got their own mission statement, they've got their own values. They want to create their own sessions. We now cater for all of that. So as a club, even as an organisation, as a league, if you wanted, you can set up and you can communicate your philosophy, your session plans, your season plans with your coaching staff. So if you, for example, if you've got volunteer coaches, you can sign them up to the system, assign their team within the coaching manual, so whatever, Presidio Soccer League, U8, whatever it is. And that volunteer coach who's got a full-time job can create a season plan in 3 minutes for a full year if they want. So each night before the practice, they get on the phone, They get on the laptop, whatever, they watch all the videos and they just click on the season plan. That's my next one. It's fully done for them. On the flip side, if you're a club that wants to develop your own periodized plans, you have all the tools at your disposal. You can send out your curriculums to your coaching staff. You can control the narrative of what happens on the field, which is what the likes of Surf, AYSO United, the Russia of this world are doing, Chicago Fires are doing. So, you know, we, like I said at the start, we don't want to tell anybody what to do. It's a game of opinions. What we want to do is provide best practice, provide tools to continue. And, you know, during this lockdown, Austin, I know you've seen some of the webinars we've had on as well. We're going to continue with these through our relationships in England and in the UK. We've managed to get people like Mike Phelan, who's the assistant manager at Manchester United. We've got him on a webinar. Rennie Mullenstein, former first team coach at Manchester United, now assistant manager for the Australia national team. Landon Donovan, who's in your very own San Diego Royal. Had Landon on, who's a great guy. Martin Diggle is the head of coaching at Liverpool Football Club in the Premier League. Who else have we had? Lee Johnson, former Bristol City manager, recently left the club. But he was, at the time we interviewed him, he was going for a championship playoff place, trying to get his team into the Premier League. Who else have we interviewed? There's so many. Head of FIFA technical development, Gareth Jennings, who rolls out the whole FIFA technical leadership program. So, you know, we have that insight, and those webinars have been key for our members as well, because whilst they haven't been able to go out on the field, they've been able to get insight off this level of coaching, and you know, us asking them the right questions and getting that level of insight that potentially nobody else has got that sort of access to those names. So it's been, you know, there's the silver lining again, because I'm interviewing these guys and I'm writing notes down, going, oh, I'm having that one and I'm having that one, and it's not just, you know, it's everybody who's got to learn. So I think, no, that's the silver lining. But we're going to continue with the coaching manual. We're going to continue with Top Tekkers, and you know, you talked about Christian Pulisic. There's other, you know, Gio Reyna, Josh Sargent. There's so many other young, talented US players ready to make the breakthrough, I think. And as, you know, as leaders of the game, as coaches, and, you know, I call the US my home now. I want to see the US on a global stage doing fantastic. You know, we've got a World Cup coming up in the not too distant future after the Qatar World Cup. You know, we're back to the US, Canada and Mexico. So it's really important that by that point, the US can put on a show. The US should be aiming for semi-finals minimum, in my opinion, minimum. I would expect, even for the men's national team. People might laugh at me, but why? Why not? You're playing at home. You've got a massive population. You've got talented players who are now bursting through in Europe. You've got talented young players in the MLS, talented young players in the USL. There's no reason. We've just got to get aligned. We've just got to, you know, level it all up and said, this is what we are, this is how we're going to do it, and this is why we're going to approach it this way.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree on the 2026 as well. We need to have a good showing, and it takes, you know, what you're doing with both Top Tekkers and the coaching manual, you know, programs like what you offer, you know, is the next generation of youth development. I love your approach on experiences as well. I mean, you guys have a resume, a CV a mile long. You've worked with the top clubs, the top coaches, the top leagues. You know, you've sort of built a program that provides a number of different solutions, but there's one area that we haven't focused on, and it's that of the parent. Let's talk a little bit about the ease of use. Let's talk about, hey, I'm a parent, my kid's at home during this quarantine time period. They're looking for, you know, things to do. I'm looking to give them the tools necessary for their success. You know, how do you provide that solution there?
Yeah. For parents, it's vital that we engage with parents. And then again, in the US, I've seen some clubs, no different to Europe, who they don't do it physically, but they do almost want to put the sign in the car park to say, drop your kids off and off you go. We're the experts. The parents spend more time with these young people than any of us. So we have to get the parents on side. We have to get the parents singing from the same hymn sheet. We have to get the parents in the car ride home not judging the young player and the team on whether they won or lost, but knowing that this week my team worked on playing out from the back of part of our plan. Our periodisation plan, we was looking out and playing out from the back. We lost the game 2-1, but we successfully played out from the back 7 times today. And if that parent can recognise that, that's development. Depending on the age, there's a time and place where we do want to win. And America's a culture of winners. This is America does not like to come second in anything. Let's have it right. The winners, and that's a very, very strong attribute to have, by the way. But we're talking about children here. We're talking about babies in something. The babies, when they're 6, 7, 8, 9, the babies, it doesn't matter yet if they win or lose to the parents. It shouldn't do. It should matter to the young person, and believe me, it does a lot of the time. They want to win. But young people are also very socially and cognitively aware of if someone's better than them. I'll give you an example. If you've got a group of players, you know in your mind who that best player in this group is. I will put money on it now that if you said to the players, and don't do it because you're going to single people out, but if you said to the players, who is the best player in this group, I will bet you they all point to who you think is the best player. They know where they are within the pecking order. They definitely do know where they are. They're not, we've got to give them more credit, these young people. So for you to say, as a parent in the ride home, if parents are having a go at them and, we lost today. Well, yeah, we lost today. Be a parent, help them, support them. And this is where the coaching manual and top Tekkers can also help, because one, the best clubs I've seen use the coaching manual actually come to us and say, can we have some parent logins? Absolutely. So the parents can start to see what the periodisation plan is for the club. The parents can start to read the guides, what we've got on the coaching manual. And the parents can start to read club-specific guides. So now the parent is clued in. We're not asking the parent to deliver the session, but the parent now knows what's coming up. So on a weekend, when they do play in a game or in a tournament, then this is what we've been working on. Have we achieved it or have we not? If you judge the game by wins and losses alone, there's only one team that can win the league. There's only one team that can win a tournament in the age category. Does that mean the rest of the teams are no good? Absolutely not. It doesn't mean that. So we've got to shift our focus on what success is. And this is where we can support parents. Top Tekkers goes one step further, because the parent can actually view when players are practicing. They can even view the graphs. So we produce graphs for the players based on how they've improved over time. So if I scored 6 this week, 9 the week after, 12 the week after, the coach, the player and the parent can see the development graphs on the phone, on the app. So it's a great tool to see, well, my son and my daughter's out practicing and they're getting better. Look, I can see the scores. And as a parent, that's what we all need to know. We need to know our players, our children are safe, that they're having fun and that they're learning something. For the most part, if they're doing those 3, then fantastic. And, wherever the players end up, whether it's college, whether it's professional, or whether it's just playing with the friends, that's absolutely fine. But are they learning? Are they working hard? Are they having fun? Are they developing a lifelong passion for the game? So both of our platforms actually support parents in that, and the coaches as well. It develops that rapport between the parent and the coach, because I talked about individual development plans early with the Premier League clubs, and the best clubs I've seen globally do this. They will prioritise on the individuals within a team, not just a team. Sometimes in America, not just America, but I've seen it more in America than anywhere else, I'll be absolutely honest, and I've coached across the globe. The focus is on the team. We kind of have to shift the narrative a bit and focus on individuals within the team. Because if I've got a squad of, say, 12 players in a 9-a-side team, if I make every individual the best they can be, guess what? My team is going to be very, very good. If I just focus on the team, and I put the strongest players through the middle of the spine of the team, and the weaker players are hide in fullback positions and out wide, then I'm actually doing those young people a disservice. And my team may win, but there's certain individuals in that team who are not going to win long term. And that, for me, is not good enough. If you prioritize every individual within the team, your team will be strong. I guarantee it. We've got to work on the individuals within the team. The team stuff will come afterwards. The players will form the team, and you put the finishing touches and the magic to it as a coach. We have to focus on individuals within the team to go, am I doing my best for that player, that player, that player, that player? And a bit of honesty with that as well. If an individual's struggling or falling behind, what do we do? Do we go and recruit a stronger player? That's not coaching, that's recruiting. Or do we coach that player to be the best player that they can be and say, you know what, I'm going to work with you individually. Here's your top Tekkers individual plan. I need you to work on this for the next month. These 3 things, go away and work on them for the next month. Now, as a coach, through the app, I can see if they're working on it or not. And I also see it in performances. Then you know what? If they're not going away and working on it, then you've got every right to say, listen, this team, this group is going away from you. We're going to have to find you somewhere else to play. And a coach is well within the right. If the player is putting in the work, the effort, and improving, it's a win-win because you've done your job as a coach. The players improved, the players bought in to the practice culture that you've created. And as a result, they're now getting closer and closer to the group. Fantastic. That's what coaching is. You know, improving every player and trying to get every player to fulfill potential. And we live in a digital era, as I said earlier. We've got to incorporate every tool at our disposal. And it's not easy sometimes. And you know, young people will drive you mad. Young people will test you. So that's the beauty of it, though. That's part of working with children. It's, you know, they're going to be straight up. They're going to give you the straight answers. But I tell you what, if you've got the best interests of that young person at heart, they can see that, and they know that you're trying to do what's best for them, and they'll give you everything when you do that. So.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, you hit it on the head. There are real 3 important things. It's are they having fun? Are they enjoying their time? Are they safe? Are they learning the game in a safe manner? And then are they developing? And I think if coaches focused on the micro of every individual, and if they empowered each individual to find success, whatever their definition of success is for each of those 3 categories, they can create something so special rather than focusing, which I think is the case, like you nailed on the head, focusing on their 1 or 2 top players and then kind of fitting the team around them. And it's incredible that it's taken 3 years and a quarantine to get to a spot where the true need for top Tekkers is shown. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, I see it at all levels. I've grown up obviously around the game. Anybody that knows me knows that I grew up with a soccer ball in the crib. So seeing the game and seeing it sort of be stagnant for the last 30 years, it's an interesting time, but you are 100% correct that we are on a new technological revolution of sorts, and the ability to have this world-class training from world-class coaches who have the experience from around the world in the palm of your hands. It provides so much value to coaches, players, parents, and anyone touching the game. So where can people find you? I'll drop more information in the show notes, definitely ways so they can find these amazing resources. But where's a good spot to find all these great things?
Yeah, so if clubs or teams or individuals for that matter want to come to me directly within the US, they can email me at paulb@thecoachingmanual.com. They can find me on Twitter at paulbrightcoach. And then you've got both of our platforms, www.thecoachingmanual.com, and then you've got www.toptekkers, so TOPTEKKERS.com as well. So all of the information, and probably if you're based Southern California, it's best to track me down as well. And what I will say is, these products aren't there to replace the coach. They're there to support the coach. I'm a coach. I do not want to invent something that then takes my job. It's Top Tekkers is there to help you. It's there to make your life easier. And if you're a director of coaching or a lead phase coach in a club, or even if you're just a regular coach within a club, then the coaching manual is going to help you, continue on that development journey as well. and pick things. Like I said, I'm a UEFA A licensed coach and I'm a USSFA licensed coach, and I'm not stopped yet. I'm continuing, and it's, for me, it's not about collecting badges. I don't care. I don't care about what I've got. My certificates are in the top drawer. I'm not bothered. What it is, it's the journey. It's always the journey for me. It's always, who do I meet on the way? So how can I get my network even larger and be able to pick up the phone to the right people at the right time and say, can I pick your brains on this? Can I ask some advice? That happens on those courses. And it's about proving your worth, really, and your commitment. However, it's, the journey doesn't stop there. I still look on the coaching manual for ideas for sessions. Sometimes I'll take it verbatim off the site and I'll go, that'll work. And then sometimes I'll go, I need to modify that, and that. I'll develop my own plan based off what I've seen. But that's a coach with 2 A licenses who's still using these resources. And I use Top Tekkers across all my 3 teams as well with my young players, which is, the response we've received within our team has been absolutely fantastic. And you know what? We have leaderboards on Top Tekkers. I forgot to mention that. So as a club coach, you can view who is practicing the most, and the players can see it. And to a player, the top 3 within the leaderboard, I look at them now technically, and the top 3 players, and one of them came out of nowhere. And when we got back out on the field, I'm not going to name him, and he was the top 3 on the leaderboard, and I looked at him and I could physically tell he's been practicing. I could see it the minute I saw him touching the soccer ball. I'm like, he's been practicing. You can see it a mile off. So the proof's in the pudding, so to speak, to use a very English term. It's the data doesn't lie. It doesn't. If they're out practicing, there's a direct correlation between practice and improvement. And this is a life lesson. Put the hard work in, look what you get out. That's any young person should be walking away with that lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially during this time, you mentioned the gamification, having a player that wasn't in the top 3, taking this time, this downtime, making use of it, and now becoming one of the top 3, and then having an app that tracks that, makes it a game, and now encourages them to continue their development. One of the big things is the emotional side of it, and what kids are doing instead of. What are they doing instead of Top Tekkers? Or, what are they doing instead of going outside and riding their bike or going for a run? They're sitting down, they're stagnant, they're playing video games, they're on their computer, they're on their phone. Now you give them a reason to be on their phone, and then that leads them to going outside, being active, kicking the rust off in a sense. Paul, pleasure. Thank you very much for your time. It's great to know you. I look forward to following your journey, and I will post more information in the show notes on how people can get a hold of you.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope you could understand me throughout that. When I start talking quickly, I get a bit passionate about things, which, but I want to say a massive thank you to Austin and obviously Two Footed Solutions for the fantastic what you guys are doing as well, and raising the awareness to trying to get our young people back out on the field. I'm hoping we get back out on the field sooner rather than later. And as we continue that journey, we'll continue to provide resources and the support mechanisms for the people that want to access it and the people who want to come on the journey as well. Because I'm on the journey, the coaching manual, everyone involved in our organisations are on the journey to be better, to benefit this game, because we all care deeply about the game and we care deeply about the young people that play it.
Never been truer words said, my friend. Thanks for your time. Have a great rest of your day. And this is Hear the Unheard Digital Summit with expert interviewee Paul Bright signing out.
Thank you.
Cheers.